My sister smiled as she walked down the aisle, wearing my custom wedding dress. She looked straight at me and whispered, "Now everyone will remember me, not you." The whole church waited for me to cry. Instead, I smiled. Because she had no idea I'd already made one phone call that would stop her wedding before she could say, "I do." My name is Victoria Monroe. I'm 32 years old. Growing up, everyone said my younger sister Chloe could charm her way out of anything. She was beautiful, confident, and somehow always managed to become the center of attention. I was the opposite, quiet, patient, the one who worked for everything she had. After years of saving money and working overtime as an interior designer, I finally got engaged to Alexander Reed, the love of my life. Our wedding was only 6 months away. One afternoon, I visited a famous bridal designer to pick up the custom wedding dress I'd spent almost a year designing. It wasn't just a dress. My late grandmother had helped sketch the first design before she passed away. Every stitch reminded me of her. The designer smiled as I tried it on. "It was made for you," she whispered. I couldn't stop smiling. I had no idea someone else had already decided it should belong to them. A week later, Chloe came over to my apartment. She begged to see the dress. "Please," she laughed. "I just want one picture. I promise I won't even touch it." Against my better judgment, I said yes. The moment she saw it, her smile changed. She stared at herself in the mirror for several seconds, then quietly said, "This should have been mine." I laughed awkwardly, thinking she was joking. She wasn't. A month later, Chloe suddenly announced she was getting married too. The strange part, her wedding was scheduled just 2 weeks before mine. Everyone thought it was a funny coincidence. I didn't. Then, 3 days before Chloe's wedding, I opened my closet. The dress was gone. No broken lock. No signs of forced entry. Nothing. Only an empty garment bag hanging where my dream dress had been. I called Chloe immediately. She answered with a laugh. "I have no idea what you're talking about." But something in her voice told me she already knew exactly where my dress was. I didn't call the police. I didn't accuse Chloe in front of the family. And I definitely didn't cry in front of anyone. Instead, I drove back to the bridal boutique. The owner, Mrs. Ellison, looked genuinely heartbroken when I told her my dress had disappeared. Then she asked a question that changed everything. "Victoria, did anyone besides you ever come here to see the dress?" I thought for a moment. Then I remembered. 2 weeks earlier, Chloe had insisted on coming with me for my final fitting. While I was changing, she'd wandered around the showroom talking to the staff. Mrs. Ellison checked her appointment records. Then she frowned. "That's strange." She turned her computer screen toward me. The file for my dress had been accessed the very next morning. Not by me. Someone had requested the exact measurements, fabric details, and pickup information, pretending to be my assistant. Mrs. Ellison immediately pulled the security footage. There was Chloe, standing at the front desk, smiling, signing paperwork under a fake name, and walking out carrying my wedding dress. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. "I'm so sorry," Mrs. Ellison whispered. "She showed your driver's license copy and knew every detail about the order." My new employee thought she was authorized. I finally had proof. Real proof. Mrs. Ellison offered to call the police immediately. I almost said yes. Then another thought crossed my mind. "No," I said quietly. "I have a better idea." That evening, my phone rang. It was my mother. "Victoria, please don't make a scene this weekend. Chloe says you're upset over some misunderstanding." A misunderstanding. She had stolen the most important thing I owned. And somehow I was the difficult one. I simply replied, "Don't worry, Mom. I won't ruin her wedding." And I meant every word, because I wasn't planning to ruin it. I was planning to let the truth ruin it. The next morning, Mrs. Ellison called again. "There's something else you should know," she said. When Chloe picked up the dress, she asked whether the ownership paperwork could be transferred into her name. I almost laughed. Transferred? The dress wasn't the only thing she'd tried to steal. Hidden inside the garment bag was the original certificate of ownership, design registration, and insurance documents, all legally listing me as the sole owner. Mrs. Ellison carefully placed every document into a sealed envelope. "If she wears that dress in public," she said, "everyone will know exactly who it belongs to." I smiled for the first time in days. "Good," I replied, "because I'm bringing those papers to her wedding." What Chloe didn't know was that her wedding venue had one very strict policy. Any dispute over stolen or illegally possessed property had to be investigated immediately before an event could continue. And I had already arranged a meeting with the venue manager 30 minutes before the ceremony was scheduled to begin. The church was beautiful. White roses lined the aisle, More than 200 guests had already taken their seats. A string quartet played softly as everyone waited for the bride. I arrived alone, not wearing my wedding dress, just a simple navy blue dress, and carrying one sealed envelope. A few relatives looked surprised to see me. Others whispered, "I can't believe she actually came." 5 minutes before the ceremony, I walked calmly to the venue manager, Mr. Carter. "I need you to see something before this wedding begins." He opened the envelope. Inside were the original design contract, the insurance certificate, the ownership papers, and still photos from the bridal boutique's security cameras. Every document carried my name. Every photo showed Chloe leaving with my wedding dress. Mr. Carter looked at me. "Are you requesting legal action?" I nodded once. "I'm requesting that stolen property not be used at your venue." Without another word, he called his legal coordinator. 3 minutes later, the music stopped. Guests looked around, confused. Mr. Carter stepped to the front of the church. "I'm very sorry," he announced, "but this ceremony has been temporarily suspended while we investigate a legal ownership dispute involving the bride's wedding gown." The room fell completely silent. Chloe's smile disappeared. "What are you talking about?" she shouted. Mr. Carter handed her the documents. "You are wearing a gown that legally belongs to Miss Victoria Monroe." Her hands started shaking. "She's lying!" Then the large screen behind the altar lit up. The venue's legal team had connected the bridal boutique's security footage. Everyone watched Chloe calmly signing the pickup papers, using a fake name, before walking out carrying my dress. No one said a word. Even our mother covered her mouth in shock. My father slowly stood up. "Chloe, tell me this isn't true." She couldn't, because everyone had already seen it. The groom stared at her for several seconds. "You stole your own sister's wedding dress?" She burst into tears. I was going to give it back after today." He quietly took off his wedding ring. "I can't marry someone I can't trust." Then he walked away. One by one, the guests began leaving the church. Within minutes, the wedding was over before it had even begun. Chloe looked at me with tears running down her face. "You ruined my wedding." I looked back at her calmly. "No, Chloe, I didn't ruin your wedding. You ruined it the day you decided my happiness was something you could steal." A week later, the bridal boutique finished making me a new wedding dress at no charge. 2 weeks after that, I married Alexander in a small garden ceremony surrounded by people who truly loved us. As I walked down the aisle, I thought about something my grandmother used to say, stolen dress can never make someone a beautiful bride, because beauty begins with honesty. She stole my wedding dress, but in the end, she lost something far more valuable, the trust of everyone who loved her. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe and tell us in the comments. What would you have done if someone stole something that meant everything to you?